Bill, it's good to see you. And where do you think we go from here?
Well, we're not just looking at the front month wheat, but we're looking down the curve. And one of the interesting things that took place today is while the May contract, which is front month, is lock limit higher for the fifth straight day, we're seeing the July contract come off that lock limit. That does start to say that some of this is getting maybe exhausted to the upside, but we'll see how things in the news flow are coming out of the weekend. And the other commodities that are close to wheat, looking at like corn and soybeans, those actually turned negative on the session, corn for a brief period of time. And I'm not exactly sure actually soybeans closing right now, but I think in the negative as well.
Yeah, so obviously after the huge spikes we've seen, they're going to be consolidating somewhat. But consolidating where? What's the ripple effect of this going to be?
That's a really great question because, when you get a move like this, obviously there's a lot of people trying to chase it. And, you mentioned the ETFs a little bit ago as well, and the volume flow into some of these ETFs. That wheat ETF averages about 300,000 volume shares traded on a daily basis. Saw 15 million yesterday, and I think 25 million today. So there's definitely a big push here. I think there's some hedging maybe going on within that ETF because of what's going on in the actual commodities here too, because being locked. But when these things start coming off limit, it could be vicious. We're doing some things in the volatility space right now that we've been able to capitalize a little bit on today. But we're just very, it's just sort of, very, very cautious with how we're going to approach this.
Yeah.
As things come off, look what crude oil is doing right now. I think is a good example. It's consolidating. We went to 116 yesterday, and they have a range right now, 106 to about 114. And it's going to build a pennant. And then when that pennant, if it sort of starts to make this little triangle here, and then it's going to break in a directional from there. Palladium is another one.
Break higher?
That's been moving here.
Or remains to be seen.
It remains to be seen. You get a pennant, and when these things start to build that pennant, you get a big, vicious directional move. And I think it's going to depend on the news flow. Right now, we've been extremely bullish crude oil. If you want to focus on that for a second, calling for $100 since it was about $50. At this point, I do think that it is a little exhausted to the upside. However, the Pioneer Natural Resources CEO just moments ago said if they start sanctioning Russian oil, you could see $150 to $200 oil. And I do not doubt that either. I mean, look at palladium today. Russia's the #1 producer in palladium. And palladium's up nearly 10% just today. It's been a big move this week, probably 30, 40%. I'm not exactly sure. But palladium is a big one. And then copper is another one that's moving today. Copper's up 10% today. But there's other factors. And this is a reminder that there are other things going on in this world right now. With copper up 10% right now, there is also, Russia only produces about 2.5%, I think 3% of the world's copper. They produce 6% of aluminum and 7% of nickel. And copper can act as a proxy to aluminum and nickel at times. But China manufacturing data earlier this week beat expectations. And the People's Bank of China said they're going to support the economy. You also have the LME, the London Metals Exchange, having delivery issues at the end of February due to lower exports or lower production in Chile. So there are other issues going on right now in the market, not just Ukraine and Russia. Imagine if, the agriculture planting season doesn't go as smoothly as expected over the coming spring and into the summer. Then you're going to see prices even higher through the next year. So there's a lot of moving parts to really want to pay attention to.
Sure, but it's good to hear that from your point of view, some of your targets have been reached. Maybe we can look forward to some temporary relief at least. Bill, good to see you. Thank you so much.